Hello everybody, it's Wednesday. This video today is a little bit different to our normal videos, but it has a lot of good stuff in that you need to know, as well as a couple of scary signals. So let's jump in. This is called cuts incoming, but other stuff is incoming too, like AltSeason. We'll do a couple of face-offs. We'll look at some macro. We'll look at some new routes around the world. We will look at some how politicians make so much money. What else? Yeah, a lot of Bitcoin stuff too. Liquidity. And so much more. Let's jump in. Thank you as well to the mods, Sean Donnelly and TND Tesla and K8 and everybody for being here. This is called, as I mentioned, cuts incoming. Fear and greed is still at 61. Bitcoin, as I am talking, just took a big dump to about 64, 157, and then 64.5, and then bounce back. Digital Assets, it's good to see you, buddy, and good to see you on X as well. But this is what happens. There are some nerves out there in the Bitcoin ecosystem. We'll touch on that too. And this is not financial advice. Shout out to everybody on Patreon too. From Andre Coudreau says, joining your community a couple of years ago was life-changing for me. Great. We have had a good time and we're finding new ways to make money in the summer market too, in the pair trade of the decade, which you just did. So let's first of all talk about what I call the Symphony. This is a chart I put together this morning. Yellow is global liquidity and blue is the Bitcoin price. And then the ribbon is the trend. As you can see very clearly, I literally, if you gave me a crayon and asked me to paint a yellow line over the blue line, that's exactly what I would probably do, but probably not as good. But you can see there's a direct correlation between global liquidity and the price of Bitcoin. And the good news is global liquidity is going up. So literally, you can take a dart and you can throw it at a board. As long as you hit the wall, Bitcoin's going up. That's it. That's it. That's the story. No, there's a lot more. A lot more. In fact, there'll be more stuff here in 20 minutes. And you'll find in any video on the internet, and that's guaranteed. Shout out to Cern Basher as well. Top analyst out there. Let's talk about Fed signals. We're going to do a little bit of a macro trip and then come back to Bitcoin and crypto in a minute. But this is the story today. Fed signals, rate cuts. I've been talking about this for a month or so now. But the Federal Reserve left interest rates unchanged, but signaled cuts to borrowing costs will begin soon. The question is, are they going to cut before September? That would be very unlikely. But all the signs are there. Now, we got the September cut signals, but is it too late? The active traders like this stuff, especially for high-tech, disruptive type stocks, crypto. They like that, especially in conjunction with global liquidity going up. It is perfect storm. But what's even crazier is things like Bitcoin go up in the worst macro ever, like reducing kind of liquidity and high interest rates. Imagine what it's going to do when these two things turn around, which they are turning around, which is going to be awesome. But there's more. I just want to show you how hard the Fed work. It takes them 6 weeks to do this. They basically edit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 words. That's their work done for 6 weeks. I do more work than that in 10 seconds. Anyway, thank you, Fed. Thank you. You're amazing. And your 320 PhDs. Let's talk about some of the scary stuff, though, before we get into crypto. New hires tank the most since the launch of COVIDians in 2022. This is scary. This is a very scary number of monthly change of new hires from Zero Hedge. And what's terrifying about this is once it starts, it continues, and it continues for a long time. So expect new hiring to be very, very slow for the next 6 months plus. Even if they open the floodgates on money printing, and even if they cut rates a truckload, it will not turn this around for a very long time. That's what the Fed need to know. So they were too late on the way in, and they're going to be too late on the way down because the damage is done. Thank you, Mr. Mike, Moto8, long-term holder. Love you guys. Now let's talk about another very scary number. Now, we're not in the gray zone yet. Shout out to Sanjay for sharing as well. But this is the Freddie Mac House Price Index of the US. And by the way, house prices are crashing all over the world, not just in the US. But typically when we see a chart like this, where the prices month over month, seasonally adjusted prices come down hard, it signals a recession. We haven't turned under yet. There was an anomaly in the year 2001, but that's a separate situation. But normally this can spell a very ugly future. But it's okay, because guess what hit an all-time high? And guess what adds billions every day? Billions every day. Literally, this was 35 trillion yesterday. It's already added $3.6 billion in 24 hours. Debt is at an all-time high, and shout out to Jerome Powell. He's paying 5% on any new debt that's issued, and half of all debt, 17 trillion plus, will roll into a 4.5% plus coupon, which will blow the deficits to high heaven. Yes, we have life rafts, so we don't care. But anyway, that's just us. And as I said on DCA last week, a rate cut is guaranteed. Now it is absolutely guaranteed. We have an 81% chance of a 25 basis point rate cut and nearly a 20% chance of a 50 basis point. My money tells me things are really, really bad out there. Commercial real estate business is really hitting the fan right now. It's going to be poop everywhere. I think they're going to go 50. You heard it here first, everybody. But you've got to wait until September, which is 6 weeks away. We're going to do that. Anyway, in the meantime, happy summer. Enjoy the beach. Let's talk about another cool little statistic. This is the Bitcoin 4-year compound annual growth rate from Glassnode. And I know we used to have CAGRs of 1,000% back in 2014, back in the good old days, but still, find me assets that have a 4-year compound annual growth rate of 55%, even after being in a nasty bear market. And even in the nasty bear market, you're still clicking 20% plus on the 4-year compound annual growth rate. This puppy is just going to continue going up. Very sweet. Okay, now, did I say, I can't remember if I said 55%, but 55% is the CAGR. I can't remember if I said that key number, the most important number of the slide, which isn't even on the slide. But anyway, it is 55% average return last 4 years and through a horrible bear market. That is bonkers. And a reminder, we're going up because global liquidity is going up. I feel like a little meme with the finger going up. Maybe I'll be replaced by one day soon. And another crazy news to prove it's going to go up. This Bitcoin ETFs grabbed 300,000 Bitcoin since January. This is from Nick at Econometrics. Bitcoin ETFs, again, 300,000 Bitcoin to their bags across 9 ETFs. And while the pace of coin capture has slowed a little bit, the key point is it continues to grow, even as the Bitcoin price hovers in this range between that kind of 60K and 70K. You could call it stagnant. But this persistent accumulation is a good sign for the long term. The perpetual bid, as I call it. And it's going to get even more perpetual and even bigger because the RIAs haven't come in yet. The pension funds are just putting their toe in the water. And this thing is hard and scarce. All right. I always say there's never been more than 14 million Bitcoin. 300,000 of them were just grabbed in 6 months. That's big. That's big. Now, what's keeping a little bit of a nervousness in the market, every time Mt. Gox moves a little bit, the market freaks out. But the good news this time is the price barely budged. Hey, Dr. Sauce. The price barely budged after Mt. Gox, the defunct Japanese exchange, unloaded another 2 billion in tokens late Tuesday night. Nothing happened. It did take a little bit of a dip today, but I think that's a market maker messing with leverage longs. That's all. And we are inching closer to finishing the $9 billion asset distribution. And as I told you, my gut told me between 50 and 80% of the creditors from Mt. Gox who'd been early OGs in the game, they're not going to sell halfway through a bull. They know better. They've been waiting 10 years to get their hands on their biddy. Now they have it. They're not going to sell it unless they want to sell it and move into meme coins. That's possible. But anyway, we'll talk more about that in a minute. But Arkham said, let me see, I can't remember the exact numbers, but pretty much there's not much left. 80% has already been transferred to places like Kraken, Bitstamp, and the latest move. I can't remember where that went either. Anyway, the point is, not much left to go, and the price has not changed, which is good. So this is a cool thing. I just popped across my radar from Rajat Soni today as well. If they kill you, they can take your resources, your land, your precious metals, your oil. If they kill you, they can't take your Bitcoin. This is how Bitcoin reduces war. I'd love to see him and Jason Lowry in a debate on this one. It'd be fun, but it's another simple way to think about it and why it's a different animal and why it's being so widely adopted. Because it's very special. It's hard, it's scarce, and it cannot be manipulated. Now, this is another fun one as well. Just food for thought after Bitcoin conference in Nashville on Friday and Saturday. You know, for the longest time, Bitcoiners didn't want government involved in their Bitcoin. And now I thought this meme was perfectly appropriate. I don't trust the government. That's why I use Bitcoin. And then, oh my God, the government is going to start a big strategic Bitcoin reserve. Yay, good for us. So it's kind of like the ETFs. Do we want BlackRock owning a lot of Bitcoin? And that's one of these things where, well, it's going to float our boats way more than retail investors ever could. At least at this stage and at this price point, I think it's net a good thing. And that's what it's always been about. It's always been about game theory. It's always been about adoption. First in gets the most. The early adopters that get in early, get in hard, reap the most benefit. So let's talk about another one that sometimes is a little bit on people's minds. This is the US Bitcoin balance. 10,000 Bitcoin, as we know, are on the move. That did rattle the markets a few days ago. By the way, Bitcoin's now back at 65K. Woohoo. That little dip would look like a market maker manipulation. So don't be shook out, by the way, and watch leverage. Make sure your liquidation levels are like down around 50K if you play that game. But here we are. US government balance 207,000 Bitcoin and 10,000 that is on the move, which is not that much. I mean, BlackRock on Monday bought 3,000 Bitcoin. 10,000 easily absorbed. The Mt. Gox folks aren't selling. Germany's done selling. So I think we're out of it. Now, another interesting news too, which may scare some people, but El Salvador proposes a Bitcoin trade with Russia from Vivek. And the question is, I talked yesterday about how the officials in Russia are going to start doing much more trade with crypto because they can skirt certain restrictions that they may have around the world. But now El Salvador is going to do that too. And apparently, when I dug into that, they only have about $30 million of trade with Russia. But nonetheless, if that happens with Bitcoin, and then we get to my grand vision from years ago of a petro Bitcoin, wouldn't that be cool? Buying oil for Bitcoin. Get away from the dollar. That's going to happen one day. We just have to wait and see. I wonder who will be the first mover to do that. And speaking of Russia too, I did warn you a bit of a macro story here, but it's all related to how we invest. So we need to know this stuff. Russia has a new shipping route. It's a top 10 headline that nobody is talking about. But Russia created a new shipping lane, which the West has zero control over, from Russia through Azerbaijan, Iran, straight to India. And that's all she wrote. So it's just like Bitcoin. You just can't keep the toothpaste in the tube sometimes, even if the governments try. So let's talk about crypto. Get into the altcoins for a second here. Ethereum flips positive after many, many negative days in a row at a $30 million positive day for the first time. Woohoo! On July 30th, the end of the month. And it may have another one. It was only a matter of time because the pace at which the Ethereum Grayscale Trust was dumping, it's not sustainable. They lost, I think, 15-20% in the first 4 or 5 days. So that is going to bleed out just like GBTC did. But speaking of GBTC, this is an incredible one. We had the highest Grayscale dump day of $73.6 million yesterday that we've had in nearly 40 days. So that was kind of stunning. So much for it bleeding out. There's still a lot of blood left and it's still bleeding fast. And we did have a negative ETF day for Bitcoin, a positive one for Ethereum. Who saw that coming? But it was only small. It was 18 million. So not too big. This is what the dip looks like. We had many, many positive days over the last couple of weeks, and we had a slight dip yesterday. Could probably turn positive again today. And as usual, our friends at BlackRock keep on stacking like mad. Now, on to the other thing that's incoming, which is super interesting, is this. This shows you that the whales are prepping and the alt season is incoming. So in the past, when you have limit buy order volume for altcoins, excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum, when that is increasing, it indicates strong buy walls are being set up to be able to snag everything other than Bitcoin and Ethereum as we go forward. During the bear, you see the opposite of this. You see a lot of limit sells, people just getting stopped out, taking their money off the table. Now the complete opposite is happening. Could this mean that alt season is incoming at last? We'll see. It was interesting, again, just as a case in point, how ETH was positive yesterday and Bitcoin negative. Maybe the alts are coming back into play. We'll see. And there's a bunch of really cool alt news as well to talk about. First of all, Arbitrum is looking beyond Ethereum for blockchains for expansion. The foundation has received significant interest from projects wishing to deploy orbit chains on several non-Ethereum networks. The ones that I saw from this were Bitcoin, Binance, and Cosmos. It's funny, Arbitrum don't want anything to do with Solana. But that's okay, because other stuff is happening too. This just launched. We've been talking about this for a while, but speaking of layer 2s on Ethereum, Eclipse just launches their Solana-powered Ethereum L2. And let's talk about why, because this is interesting. First of all, when we talk about speed, Eclipse will help achieve the speed of Solana while operating on Ethereum, which is cool, which is what we all hope. And Solana is known for its high transaction throughput, often referred to as the speed of light, etc. And by using the SVM, which is the Solana virtual machine, Eclipse can process multiple transactions simultaneously, significantly increasing its transaction speed per second compared to traditional ETH Layer 2 solutions. And when it comes to cost, yes, this Solana-based ETH Layer 2 is cheaper than the Layer 2s on Ethereum that currently exist. And this innovative approach not only benefits users with more efficient and affordable transactions, but also strengthens the Ethereum ecosystem by enhancing its scalability and attracting new projects. So think of, you get the speed, you get the cost, and if you want the security of Ethereum, you get it all in one package. And I am so excited for the day that this happens with Bitcoin too. Solana-powered Layer 2 on Bitcoin, where you get the speed and the cost of Solana and the security of Bitcoin. It's coming. We're just not quite there yet, but it'll be here real soon. And another interesting news too, the California government, we have a thing called the DMV, which is the Department of Motor Vehicles, and that manages the registration of vehicles. And there's a lot of them in California. But now I think the DMV has already registered 42 million car titles on Avalanche, which is cool for Avalanche. And they are working with another software firm called Oxhead Alpha. You know, there's ways of using a blockchain without actually being part of the blockchain. I think that's what they're doing here. But vehicle owners will be able to track and claim their digital titles through a secure DMV mobile wallet app, allowing them to manage their vehicle titles, maybe selling their cars through a blockchain. Who knows? And this will streamline the title transfer process, reducing transfer times from weeks to minutes, and also an early warning system for lien fraud through the blockchain's immutable ledger. So no, you can't just steal somebody's yellow card or pink card, or I don't even know. I don't even know what a title looks like. I never see them. They're in a folder somewhere. But it'll prevent a lot of that fraud too. Again, another benefit of blockchain. I'm very excited about that. But let's check in on Avalanche. This is from, of course, our SCP profiler. We can face off any asset across hundreds of dimensions in a second. This is Avalanche, and the number of daily active users is now 36,000 versus nearly 2.3 million on Solana. Not a lot of daily transactions happening per user versus 20 on Solana. The fees, 11.5 cents, which is probably a lot cheaper than DMV fees. But Solana is 114,000% cheaper. And the amount of fee generation by the chain is $19,000. Hopefully the DMV will help Avalanche build up some of their fees, whereas Solana yesterday was $2.114 million. But what's interesting, if you add up all of these metrics, the average deltas between Solana and Avalanche are 33,000% higher. And the reason I mention this, a lot of people felt, well, Avalanche is kind of like the same as Solana, therefore I don't need to have Solana. Well, no, that's not how it works. Again, winner takes most. Remember that, everybody. Speaking of winners taking most, we have Nancy Pelosi. This from the Cabesi letter. Nancy Pelosi purchased another $1.3 million of NVIDIA stock, and that brings her total purchase amount to $2.5 million this month. And NVIDIA is up 12% today, adding over $350 million in market cap. That's the power this lady has. She is incredible. And she sold Microsoft. By the way, Microsoft took a complete dump yesterday, down about 8 or 9% on earnings, which wasn't good. The Azure product is not doing too well. Let's check in on some of our politicians. Let me see. Nancy is now number 3. $250 million in net worth. Again, I always say you'll never see a poor politician, and shout out to our amazing politicians. But the two top, Rick Scott and Vern Buchanan, they're number 1 and number 2. And I think the red and the blue is for the different party. Blue is Democratic, red is Republican. But they're all equally good insider traders. So very proud of each and every one of them, parties aside. But the red ones seem to have the little edge here. And another interesting statistic I thought was, the reason I share this one is because I'm very worried about the impact of AI on jobs. But if you look at the S&P 500, it's a very simple statistic. They look at the top 500 companies, add up the number of employees they have, and look at the revenue. And this is interesting. Now, if you want to benchmark yourself against an S&P 500 company, you should be generating at least $500,000 of revenue per employee. In this case here, the staff to create 1 million is now 2. It used to be 8, and it's coming down fast. Now, I believe this will go into hyperdrive with the advent of artificial intelligence. And it's going to go down to, one employee is generating maybe 5 million in revenue. Who knows? Watch this space. I will share this in a year from now because I'm personally very intrigued by it. Now, final note. Speaking of Russia and China, we can't let China go quiet. China leads critical mineral production on the planet. This is kind of startling. If you look at copper, nickel, aluminium, lithium, cobalt, rare earth metals, manganese, natural graphite, basically China owns the entire market. And that is scary. Shout out as well to, let me see, lithium, Chile. But now the US is going to become a bigger lithium refiner too. Thank you to companies like Tesla as well. So with that, everybody, that's a quick story. There's a lot of stuff, too much macro to ignore. AltSeason hopefully coming in, and Bitcoin's going up with global liquidity. That's the quick wrap. Thank you to the mods in the chat. And over 7,000 people watching live. Love you all. Hit the like on the way out so we can get the message out to others. Not to lose hope to market makers and manipulation. Make a plan. Stick to it. Thanks all. Bye-bye.